So the latest in Hunter Biden's story is a really big deal and really going to change the game, I think, on the Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Well, let me clarify here. Is it a really big deal?
Because it's true?
Because it's true and it's going to give us incredible new information about Hunter Biden, or... because that's boring. Or is it a really big deal that's actually going to make a difference? Because I feel like I'm promised this all the time. And
I know.
It never arrives.
So here's what this reveals how corrupt everything in Washington is. So it will mean nothing unless... you start cleaning up the corruption, because this is just roping in everybody. And the testimony that is coming in, done by the House, is stunning. So there's a new whistleblower. Now, Hunter Biden got a new high-powered legal team, and he brought a war room together. The guy, David Brock, I think, didn't he go over to the war room? A lot of the people from Media Matters, et cetera, et cetera. And this legal team and this really aggressive public relations team put out on the New York Times, the Justice Department, in the person of a U.S. attorney in Delaware, David Weiss, was moving toward letting Hunter Biden off easy. The New York Times said Mr. Weiss, and people familiar with the investigation, says it appears to be focused on a less politically explosive set of possible charges stemming from Hunter Biden's failure to meet filing deadlines for his taxes and questions about whether he falsely claimed at least $30,000 in deductions for business expenses. So this would have been nothing, okay? Slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a new story that is out, and it came out this week, on why this is taking so long and what is really going on. And it comes from a high-level whistleblower at the IRS. He's been working with the Justice Department on the Hunter Biden investigation. He is a career IRS criminal supervisory special agent. He's retained a letter. He's retained a lawyer and written a letter to Congress claiming the Biden administration is interfering with the investigation into the president's son. The anonymous special agent sent the letter and said, look, I am not going to reveal who I am. I'm not going to reveal all of the facts unless you promise my safety. Okay? That's kind of interesting. He said, I need to have the appropriate legal protections, and that I will only do it if I can be secure. Okay. So what is he saying? So what he's saying is really, I think, game-changing. He is saying that let me go to Merrick Garland, because Merrick Garland is at the heart of the whistleblower's claim. When the Attorney General was sworn in, he said, look, I'm staying way away from this. There's no preferential treatment at all. Okay. The longtime IRS employee wants to provide information to congressional leaders to contradict the sworn testimony to Congress by Garland, okay, that he is receiving preferential treatment. Garland said there's no interference, nothing. I have nothing to do with it. The guy is the supervisor of the investigation. We put the guy in Delaware. We put him in charge of it. He's a Trump appointee. He's from the previous administration. He's the U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware. I've met him as the Attorney General. He's committed to the independence, and we have nothing to do with it. So what's happening is they are dismissing at the IRS all the things that the whistleblower said, these are clear, huge crimes, and we would be pursuing them all the time. But the Attorney General, or the district attorney there in Delaware, is dismissing them, and he's saying it's because of Merrick Garland. That Merrick Garland is putting a rope around things and saying, no, you don't need that. But he's doing it in such a way to where Weiss is just not asking for stuff. And the IRS is like, what about this? No, we don't need that. And then Merrick Garland can say, well, he didn't want it, so it must not have been important. So Merrick Garland is dirty in this thing. And listen to who else it ropes in. Another official testified this week. This guy's from the CIA. He's the guy who helped write and sign the 2020 Biden laptop letter from all the former Intel people.
Yeah,
he's the guy who did it. He says, now, Mike Morrell, former acting CIA director under President Barack Obama, said in a transcribed interview with the congressional investigators that before his October 17th phone call with Anthony Blinken, he had no intention of writing the October 19th Hunter Biden laptop letter. He testified yes and absolutely when he asked if the call with Blinken, who was then the top advisor for Joe Biden's campaign, is what triggered that intent in you. So he gets onto a phone with Blinken. He's not going to write anything about it. He hangs up and he writes the letter. Was it Blinken's phone call that made you write the letter? Yes. He also testified that one of the two reasons he helped put the letter together was to help Joe Biden defeat Donald Trump. So now we have pretty much a hostile witness here, guy who used to work for Obama, testifying that Anthony Blinken, who's now our Secretary of State, had that written, and Merrick Garland is putting ropes around what you can investigate and what you can't investigate.
Fascinating.
So this, when you say, is this going to lead to something? I don't know, because it's not just about Hunter and Joe Biden now. Now this is about the people at the IRS that this guy is whistleblowing on. It's about Anthony Blinken. It is about Merrick Garland. It's about the president. And who knows who else was involved in this. I've never, in my lifetime, I have never seen our American government this corrupt. You know why people aren't going to jail when they testify falsely to Congress? Because Congress can only refer it to the Justice Department. They can only say, this guy is contempt of Congress. He lied under oath. Then they refer that to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department has to decide, do we hold them and put them in jail? Do we try them for that or not? Congress can only refer them. So you can get in front of Congress and lie your butt off if you have control of the Justice Department. How are you going to nail Merrick Garland?
I mean, you better make sure that you maintain control of the Justice Department. That's key to that little game. But yeah, it gives you a huge line of defense. And then afterward, you can just claim, well, they're just coming after me because of politics. So it does. This is why I'm skeptical that these things ever lead to anything. And the good thing is, just like there's always some left-wing nut job who is trying to, take out every prominent conservative, there are people who are moderates and conservatives throughout the government who are seeing the abuses here and are not going to stand up for them. Now, whether their whistleblowing turns into something, it's fair to be skeptical of.
But you are looking at, this is a movie. This is a movie.
Yeah.
You're looking at the cover-up. What are these people willing to do? I mean, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, they knew they could get away with it because they had their cronies at the heads of the government. And they know once dad's either dead or out of office, nobody's going to bring this up. He just has to make it through his terms in office, and then nobody will bring it up, and it'll just go away. That can't happen this time. That cannot happen. We have to know the truth, and somebody has to pay the price. You can't just whitewash Merrick Garland. I mean, I was reading some of this stuff today, and I thought, that guy almost was a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know anything about him. I thought, okay, well, maybe, I don't know.
Another
Liberal judge. All right. I thought he was just a liberal judge. No, this guy, I think, is corrupt to the core.
I think, too, part of it, he's that way even more now because he's been convinced, like everyone else on the left, that Republicans stole that seat on the Supreme Court, which is a completely ridiculous thing.
And shows his character.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's easy to have, decent character when everything's going your way. When you start to have pushback, what's your character?
Yeah, and that's an insane telling of that story. Republicans had control of the Senate. Even if they got a vote, he wouldn't have got through. But beyond that, though, and this goes all the way to the top. We always talk about the Bidens, but Antony Blinken, which, by the way, no H, not Anthony.
Yeah, sorry.
Antony Blinken is the Secretary of State.
I know.
I mean, these are people that were manipulating certainly, at the very least, the politics surrounding the election.
And not only that, he's the guy, the State Department was the one that directed the Pentagon on how to evacuate people in Afghanistan. It wasn't just the Pentagon. For the very first time, it was the State Department, and he was in charge of it. He also, did you notice when they were talking about sending all the money over to Ukraine? It's going through Antony and the State Department. All of this corruption that stems really around Ukraine for a decade. All the same people are involved. All the same people are traveling back and forth. And all the people who seem to also be connected now to a Hunter Biden scandal, they're all in the pipeline of money going all around the world.
And Antony Blinken is a legit Biden guy. Like, this is the type of guy that was, when the Obama administration was filled with people who thought Obama was God and were sort of embarrassed by Biden. That's not Antony. Antony Blinken's a dedicated Biden guy, and you wonder why there's not turnover at some of these positions. They all know this stuff. They all know what they've done. You can't fire people like Antony Blinken because he's been running interference and burying bodies. Of course, we're talking figuratively here, all over the place for the past 30 years. These people, you can't fire them, no matter how bad you think things are going. They stay around forever.
I don't think they think it's going poorly. But if you've got the crew that is willing to bury bodies and willing to deal corruptly, why would you fire them? You want somebody who's not in your inner circle? No. They might catch on to something.